What does it mean to protect your Bitcoin? That's the topic I want to cover today. You'll see so many Bitcoin channels talking about the Bitcoin price, where they think it might go in the next few months. People think that it's going to go up or down. People think it's going to bottom out in October of this year before going up. But that's all a distraction, because if you lose your Bitcoin, then none of it matters. So knowing how to protect your Bitcoin and what it even means to protect your Bitcoin is more than half the battle. So let's first start with the topic of what does it even mean? Because Bitcoin is a digital currency, digital asset, like gold, some people say. So how do you protect something that isn't physical? With gold, you can keep it at your house. You can put it in a safe, maybe bury it in your backyard or hide it somewhere that only you know about in your house because it's a physical thing. But with Bitcoin, you can't do that. And I want to explain how to think about this conceptually, given that Bitcoin is a digital asset. When people say that they own Bitcoin, it doesn't mean that they can hold on to it in their hand. When we talk in terms of Bitcoin and how much money someone has in terms of Bitcoin, we're talking about how much monetary real estate that person has in the minds of everyone that is in the network. And that's a little complicated of a concept to break down, but I'm going to try to do my best. As I talked about in a previous video, money and value is something that is not inherent in and of itself to that object. For example, gold is not inherently good or bad. It's not inherently valuable. It's just something that we've ascribed value to. Otherwise, it would just be a shiny rock. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin exists in our minds. And so we don't need to be able to hold on to it physically for us to prescribe value to having something in cyberspace, because it exists in our minds. Then the question is, how do you protect something that is in someone's mind? Or how do you ensure that everyone agrees that you have value in your possession? This is where the concept of the seed phrase comes in. It's a set of 24 words, or optionally 25 words, that only you should know about and no one else. It's like King Arthur's Excalibur. Only he's the one that's able to pull the sword out of that stone. Or in other words, it's like Thor was the only one that was worthy enough to lift his hammer Mjolnir. And because Bitcoin is an asset that exists in our minds in cyberspace, in order to prove that you own that Bitcoin, the seed phrase is the key that you should have in your possession in order to prove that you have ownership of that asset. So whoever has the 24 words and is able to recite those 24 words in the proper order is like Arthur being able to pull Excalibur out of the stone, or Thor being able to hold up Mjolnir. That person's the one that has access to the Bitcoin, and therefore proves to everyone in the network that it is indeed the right person who is able to access that money. Once again, to reiterate, Bitcoin is not something that's physical. Value is not something that's physical. It's something that is in our minds. So all we need to do is be able to prove that we are the owner of a certain amount of value that everyone else agrees to. And to prove that you own that value, the 24 words is your key to do that. Depending on how familiar you are with these 24 words, or more commonly known as a seed phrase, you may or may not know that the odds of being able to guess someone's 24 words in the proper order is less than being asked to choose a random atom from Earth and it being the right one. So if someone were to ask you, hey, choose a single atom in the entire Earth, and if you're able to guess it, then that's your odds of being able to guess someone's 24 words. So it's almost mathematically impossible for you to guess it, or even supercomputers to try to hack it. But if you're really paranoid, then the best practice is to tack on a 25th word to make it even harder. So realistically and practically, what you need to do is be able to write down these 24 words and hide it and store it in a way that protects it from natural disasters, or from untrustworthy people, or from thieves or robbers, or from even your own death. Now you may be wondering, how do I get these 24 words? Do I just come up with it on my own? I guess you could, but the normal way to do it is to use either software or dedicated hardware that helps you generate a truly random set of 24 words. So you could use an online wallet like Exodus or MetaMask or Atomic Wallet, or any of the various software wallets to create your own Bitcoin address. But the fatal flaw with this is that these 24 words, even though they may be truly randomly generated, they were generated on a device that is connected to the internet. And it exposes risks to hackers that may intercept that random number generation somewhere in the process, so that they can actually know what it is without having to hack it or randomly guess it, because once again, it's almost mathematically impossible. So the only way that hackers can gain access to your 24 words is to try and intercept somewhere along the process of random word generation, or target you when you accidentally type your 24 words into a malicious website that may be running some code on the browser that is also trying to intercept what words you're typing into the keyboard. So the important thing is to never ever type your 24 words into a website, into a computer, never take a picture of it, never take a screenshot of it, never even tell your close friends or family. Only the people that is truly entrusted with your full consent to have a backup copy of those 24 words, which can be your family. But the important thing is to never expose it to any device that may be connected to the internet. Because once again, if someone has access to the 24 words, then they become an imposter that can act like they're King Arthur or Thor when they're actually just pretending that they're you. But in the cryptographic world, in the cyberspace of Bitcoin, that might as well be the same thing, because they are able to prove to the network that they know the 24 words, which is all that the network needs, which is why it's paramount and of utmost importance to protect these 24 words if you're going to go this route of truly owning the money that you work for. Because you can keep your money on Coinbase or Kraken, or you can buy ETFs on Vanguard, Fidelity. But when you buy ETFs on Vanguard or Robinhood, you don't know those 24 words that's associated with that Bitcoin. So yes, you did put money into something that is going up and down according to the price of Bitcoin, but it's like a stock. You don't actually own that Bitcoin. You don't have full authority to send it whenever you want or wherever you want. You're essentially at the mercy of a third party, which can be Robinhood or Vanguard or Fidelity, because they are the ones that's managing your Bitcoin and managing the 24 words that's associated with that Bitcoin. So it's a trade-off. Yes, you can keep your money in an ETF or an exchange, and that's going to be much more convenient. When my dad bought Bitcoin recently for the first time on Coinbase, I recommended that he just keep it there for the time being until he learns all of this stuff. Because, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you want to own your money free from any third-party system, then you need to take on the responsibility of securely storing these 24 words. And it may seem like a very easy thing to just write down 24 words somewhere on a piece of paper, but when it comes to your life savings perhaps, or your retirement, or even just fund money, at the end of the day, it's still money. If you're okay with losing that money, you can take it as lightly as you want. But for the people who are serious about Bitcoin and about the ethos of Bitcoin, which is relying on no one else to be able to verify and see and send however much money you want, but to have everything under your own control, which can be good or bad. But in this video, I'm trying to tell you how you can do it for yourself. What you need to get in order to generate these 24 words safely, free from any internet, is a device called a cold wallet that is capable of generating these random 24 words fully offline. And the best one that I personally use, and from my personal research, is the Coldcard. I use the Coldcard Mark V, but there's a more expensive version called the Coldcard Q. But both of these things essentially do the same thing, which is it uses a secure chip on the device that is not connected to the internet, but it is capable of truly generating random numbers, which in turn generates the random words. If you were to do this process of generating these 24 words on a online wallet, or what they call a hot wallet, it's hot because it touches the internet, as opposed to a cold wallet, which is cold because it does not touch the internet. The 24 words are generated somewhere online, somewhere on a computer that is capable of generating these random numbers, but it exposes you to the risks of those words being intercepted somewhere along the way. Now, it's also important to order these devices directly from the manufacturer's website and not from a retailer like Amazon. This is because there could also be a risk associated with buying from Amazon, which is someone intercepts the package along the way and installs some malicious code on that hardware device in order to deceive you into sending that person the Bitcoin that you think is going to your own address. So just because it's a hardware wallet, or just because you're doing something offline, does not mean that you can lower your guard. You still need to take as many precautions as possible to minimize the attack surface, or the areas in which people can take advantage of you. Once you go to their website and order yourself one of these devices, if you order the Coldcard, it's going to look like a calculator. If you order some of these other hardware wallets like Ledger or Trezor, it may look different. But the whole point of these devices is to simply generate 24 words securely. That's the entire thing that they're built for. They don't actually hold any Bitcoin because, once again, Bitcoin is not stored on a physical device. It's stored in the collective minds of the people in the network. But as long as you are the owner of the 24 words, then you're the owner of the Bitcoin. So the task is to safely generate these 24 words and store the 24 words. I found a video that will be able to explain in much more detail with much more clarity exactly how to use the cold card Mark 5 or Mark 4. And I'm going to link it down in the comment section below. And this is how I learned how to use the cold card. Once you have the cold card generate these 24 words, first you're probably going to write it down on a piece of paper so that you can quickly get it off the system, get it off the device, and bring the 24 words into the physical world, as in you write it down on a piece of paper. But because paper can easily burn or become wet in the case of a flood perhaps, or if you spill water on it, and because it could rip, it's not the best way to keep storage of your 24 words. The best way, in my opinion, is to have a titanium metal plate where you physically hammer each letter into the titanium plate. This is because titanium does not rust. It's very chemically stable. So in the case where maybe your house burns down and there's a bunch of chemical equipment everywhere and the titanium plate is submerged in that chemical, it's still going to be fine. It's likely not going to rust. Its combustion temperature is also very, very high, so it's going to last in the case of a house fire. There's other options like getting a set of small metal letters that you slide into a plate where you sandwich them together and then you screw them. But the issue with this is that if the sandwiched metal plates were to come apart and all the letters fall out, then you basically have lost your 24 words and your money is gone. So the best way is to physically deform a single piece of metal to minimize the number of things that could go wrong. You want to physically stamp your words into that piece of metal. You don't want to keep it on a piece of paper, and you don't want to have too many moving parts with your seed phrase storage. Most of these metal titanium plates designed for seed phrase storage will come in sets of 2 so that you can stamp your words on one side of the metal and then take the other side, close it so that the words are sandwiched on the inside, and then you screw them together so that no one can see what it says from the outside. Then you want to get some tamper evident bags that are fully opaque. What you can look up on Amazon is level 4 tamper evident bags that are fully opaque. Get yourself some of these. They'll probably come in a pack of 100 or more, so you're going to have plenty. You can put your metal plates that are fully screwed in tight with the words on the insides of the plates and slide it into the tamper evident bag, close the bag, and each bag will likely have a serial number associated with the bag. This serial number is completely fine to write down on your computer because it's not giving away anything related to your seed phrase. But it's a good idea to write down your serial number that's associated with your tamper evident bag, because let's say a thief were to come in and then try to quickly see what was on the inside of the metal plates, and he brought his own tamper evident bag, so he just swapped it. The way you would be able to tell that someone actually messed with something is to cross-check with your tamper evident bag's serial number. So what I would do is I would write down the tamper evident bag's serial number onto some kind of cloud password manager so that you can track when something was messed with. But in most cases, the tamper evident bag will just be there to ensure that no one opens it without you knowing. And throughout this entire process, you want to be the only one that's actually working on this. You should be the one that's physically stamping the words onto the metal plate. You should be the one that is putting the metal plate into the bag and writing down all the sensitive information. You don't want to trust anyone else to do it for you. You don't want to go to some kind of woodworker or some kind of person who does laser printing onto metal to engrave the words onto the piece of titanium. If you're really, really lost, you should ask for help from someone like me, perhaps. But when you go to someone online or when you go to a professional to help you with Bitcoin storage, you should never tell me, or you should never tell anyone else, the actual 24 words. I can help guide you through the steps and what exactly to do, but the words themselves only you should know. Now that you have a titanium metal plate stored in a tampered evident bag, that is just one copy. One copy means that you have no backups. Now you should do this process one more time of stamping the words onto another metal plate and put it into another tamper evident bag and write down the unique serial number of that bag so that you can have a backup of the 24 words. And of course, the words that you stamp onto this second metal plate should be the exact same set of 24 words that you've stamped onto the first set of metal plates. Give this backup set of metal plates in its own tamper evident bag to who we're going to call person B. Let's say you're person A and you have a trusted contact person B. Give them this tamper evident bag with the metal plate in it and just tell them to keep it safe. Tell them never to open it or let anyone else know that you have it. Ideally, they should be living in a separate geographic location, perhaps across the country, perhaps on another continent even. And also, ideally, they should not know what the 24 words are because they're not going to open it unless they absolutely need to, which hypothetically could be the case of your own death and inheriting that money or being able to send it to the proper person, which I'll cover later. Okay. At this point, you're much more secure because you've generated the 24 words completely offline and you've given a backup copy of these fully offline generated 24 words to a trusted contact person B. But here's the scenario. If a thief comes in and steals a metal plate that you have, now they have full access to quickly move your funds over to their own wallet. If they were to quickly open up the metal plate and maybe write it down on their own piece of paper, or if they came prepared with their own software wallet that they could quickly transfer the money to. This is why many people recommend having something called a passphrase, which acts as a 25th word. Just like you're able to generate a wallet with the 24 words, once you tack on the 25th word, it creates a whole nother unique combination and a whole nother unique wallet. It's a totally different wallet address once you tack on the 25th word. Just like you took all the necessary precautions to generate these 24 words completely offline, you should do as best you can to come up with a unique word or unique password, which can include symbols, letters, numbers, uppercase, lowercase, whatever you'd like, and memorize it. That way, if a thief were to come in and steal the metal plates from you, they try to connect to that wallet using those 24 words, but the wallet that's connected with those 24 words is a decoy wallet, because the real wallet is the one that has the 25th word, which is in your head. Now, I know it's getting very, very paranoid sounding, but there's a chance that you could get dementia or some kind of brain damage and forget the 25th word yourself. So the next step is to order another metal plate where you can stamp on or engrave this 25th password onto it safely, just like you did with the first set of metal plates. You put it in its own tamper evident bag. You store the unique serial number associated with that tamper evident bag, just like we did in the earlier steps. But this time you give it not to person B, but to another person C. And this person C should also live in a separate geographic location from either you or person B. And person C, the person who has the 25th word, should not know what the 24 words are, and the person who owns the 24 words should not know what the 25th word is. So to recap, both person B and person C each have their own metal titanium plate. Person B has the one that has 24 words. Person C has just the 25th word. Neither person B nor person C knows of each other's words, and you also own a copy of the 24 words in a metal plate form at your home or wherever you want to keep it. You can make another copy and store it in a bank vault, but of course, you're increasing your potential for being attacked. So it's a balance, and you need to find the best combination for you. So that's basically it. You have your 25 words that creates a Bitcoin address that you can send from Coinbase or Kraken to your wallet address. And because this wallet address was generated using the 24 words that were completely generated offline, and also the 25th word, which only you should know, your seed phrase or your master key or your Mjolnir, so to speak, is generated the most secure way possible, which are the steps you should take if you truly want to own your own Bitcoin. Now, I covered what is technically a 2 of 2 physical multisig, you could say, but many people recommend another form of storage called multisig. You can look up tutorials for that, but in this video I covered a way to physically have backups of your 25 words and still sleep pretty soundly at night, knowing that your words were generated offline and that your words have backups in multiple geographic locations. And the physical device that you use to store your 24 words does not actually contain any Bitcoin in it. Once again, money that we're dealing with here in this cyberspace is a psychological thing that exists in the minds of people in the network. It's not a physical thing like gold. It's not something that you can hold. It's not something that you can live in like a house, but it is pure information and pure psychology. So that's the cool thing about Bitcoin, is that you can store most of your value, most of your net worth across space and time and take it on an airplane with you, as long as you write down these 24 words somewhere, or 25 if you want to take more precautions. This is what it takes if you want to own your money. Now, the alternative to this is that you keep your money perhaps in a Bitcoin ETF or just in a normal Chase checking account or a Wells Fargo checking account or savings account. And you don't have to deal with any of this nonsense of tracking your 24 words and securely distributing it to your trusted contacts and making sure that it survives house fires or chemical damage. But you're giving up your ability to know exactly where that money's coming from, to know exactly how much money is in the system that you're participating in, to be able to send it whenever you want, to be able to claim it whenever you want, to be able to verify if anyone is messing with your money or claiming that they have more money than they actually do, which essentially caused the 2008 financial crisis. So if you're capable of securely storing these 25 words, then you have the ability, and as long as you have a computer that can connect to the internet and run some basic software, which is Bitcoin, you can choose to completely exit the monetary system that we have been using for the last 100 something years. years since the creation of the Federal Reserve. I think an important concept of this video is that value is not something that you necessarily have to hold. Most things that we deem valuable in life are not physical. For example, love is valuable, humor is valuable, time is valuable, but none of these things are physical goods. And yet we still value them because it is something in our minds, something in our hearts, and we choose to prescribe value to them. So in that sense, Bitcoin is the first monetary system that is completely capable of doing something like this, of representing money in a digital form that can be purely peer-to-peer from one person to another person, while eliminating the need for you to trust in people that you don't want to trust in. But it comes with a responsibility, which is for you to track and store these 25 words. But that's all you have to do, really. So if you're able to do what I outlined here in this video, then you can also enter the Bitcoin monetary network. Yes, of course, it goes deeper. Like if you want to take it further, you can run your own Bitcoin node on your own computer, and you can see exactly how much money someone is sending you, and you can verify every single transaction throughout all of Bitcoin's history. But I think this is a great place to start, which is to own your Bitcoin on your own securely generated cold storage wallet. And the last topic I want to cover in this video is the topic of inheritance. I know this may sound a little weird to us younger people because I also just turned 25, but I want to tell you how important this section of the video is. Let's say you accumulate all this knowledge of Bitcoin. If you were to die tomorrow, or get hit by a bus, or somehow fall sick and lose your memories, how can you ensure that all the work you put into this can be used for the people that you love, or for the cause that you actually want to spend it on? If you don't have a backup plan for that, even if you're in your 20s or even teenagers should know about this and think about this. There's a saying of memento mori, remembering your own death. I think it's productive to occasionally think about your own death, to prepare for it, and to know that life is short. So the topic of inheritance will cover just a few things very briefly, but the main thing is to set up a Google Doc or some kind of paper document where you clearly write out what exactly person B and C should do. You can make it as complicated as you want, but for the people that are going to be inheriting your wealth, most likely they are not as into Bitcoin as you are. So the best thing would be to make this document as simple as possible, almost like an instruction to the treasure map that is your Bitcoin seed phrase. So I would write down, this is exactly what person B should do, steps 1, 2, and 3. This is exactly what person C should do, steps 1, 2, and 3, or however many steps you want to put. But an important thing about this is that, once again, you should not put your seed phrase on here or your 25th word, also known as the passphrase. Don't put it on the Google Doc. Don't even write it down on the piece of paper. Just put down in general what steps they should do. And it should sound something like this. In the case of my death, person B and person C should communicate with one another to combine their two pieces of information to create the 25 words in proper order. Once you have the 25 words, then either learn how to transfer the Bitcoin yourself onto the proper medium of exchange, whether that be Coinbase, and then know how to sell it or know how to manage it yourself if you're going to keep it in the form of Bitcoin. Also remember that there will be tax implications depending on whether you're using this in your personal account, which is post-tax, or whether you're doing it through a form of retirement accounts, something like a non-prototype investment only account, which I covered in a previous video on how you can actually own real Bitcoin through your 401k, which is something that traditional institutions don't let you do. So essentially, person B and C should communicate with one another to combine their two parts of their master key to create the full master key, which is the 25 words. But when they communicate with one another, they should not call each other over the phone to discuss what their 24 words are or reveal what their 25th word is. Ideally, they should meet up in person, even if that means they have to fly on a plane to see each other. So once they're in person and they're able to discuss this in a private setting, then they can have the 25 words, which creates the master key, and either learn how to do this themselves or consult with a Bitcoin professional, or you can ask someone like me. But again, don't tell me or anyone else the 24 words or 25th word. All you should be hearing from them is the general steps on how to do this. If they ask you for any part of your seed phrase, then you know that it's a scam and you should run away. So I think that covers most of what I wanted to talk about in terms of how you should store your Bitcoin and also what it even means to protect your Bitcoin. Let me know if you guys want me to expand on any part of this further. See you in the next one.